Hey, welcome! It's me, and oh boy, do I have a lot to tell you. I agree with Flip like 7 times out of 10, and usually things I disagree with are minor. For example, he overrates Fischl constantly, but who cares? Fischl is so great. Still, sometimes I do have a completely different take, and this is one of them occurrences. I'm talking about the being a Genshin fan is depressing video. If you didn't watch it, go watch it, especially that I won't be quoting it in full here. I thought it would be interesting to reply to him instead of someone who is totally different and they are, I don't know, a fishing enjoyer. Okay, let's be real, those don't exist, but you know what I mean. A little context though. At first I just wanted to write Flip a comment. I'm sure you know the feeling. You watch a YouTube video, you read a post, a comment, and your mindset is so different, you just have to talk about it. And it's to be expected. Thousands of years of human evolution have led to this moment. You didn't win a race as a single spermatozoon out of millions for no reason. By the way, spermatozoon just sounds like an enemy in Star Rail. Anyway, you need to reply because you are special. Your opinion needs to be articulated. So, this was me with Flip's video, but then something unexpected happened. I realized things I was writing were mostly things I wanted to talk about anyway, but I kind of didn't know how to contextualize them. So, I decided I'd use his video to do that, but keep in mind that it's not a traditional response. It is a response, but I will go off topic. I already know that. But I also know that TCG is an important factor in the point that I will try to make. Oh, and I do play both games, by the way. A video of my first impressions of Star Rail will be coming next week. I'm not capping this time since it's nearly finished.
I don't even know where to start or the direction I'm going to go through with this video. I just want to talk because as it stands now, being a Genshin fan is pretty depressing. Even though 3.7 is right around the corner, even possibly out by the time you're watching this.
Yeah, it is out, alright. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say that him feeling depressed is 100% understandable. I will not sit here and tell anybody how they should feel, especially since I did feel depressed by Genshin before. If you look at my channel, you will see that I don't really do anything theory crafting related anymore, and there are a lot of reasons for that, but the main is I just haven't felt like it. Since this godforsaken article about the endgame not coming. I made a video on that, and I did play the devil's advocate for a bit there because adding endgame could 100% make someone feel anxious. Just like not having it could. My point is you can be depressed by anything in Genshin or any other game. I don't dispute this fact, just to be clear.
All we have is another defensive Dendro unit because we didn't have a ton of those already. Rehashed events, another Yoimiya story quest. The absolutely wonderful TCG event, and the rerun of characters that came out a few updates ago.
See, here are my first disagreements, but these are the minor ones I was talking about in the beginning. Personally, I don't feel the oversaturation of Dendro defensive units, maybe because I hate using Yao Yao. Like, dude, I don't know why, I don't enjoy playing kids in general. Nahida and Diona are the exceptions, but you'll realize something. They are awful units. Yao Yao, when played as intended, just feels super clunky to me, especially when you have to run to the other side of the abyss and her little legs just can't keep up. Both Baiju and Kirara feel much better, and oh boy, by the way, no, Baiju isn't trash. I mean, it's not something that Flip said. If he did, I didn't hear it, but I'll just go on record and say he's mid, and anybody who says he's trash is doing a tecton.
Kokomi's normal attack, charge attack, and Bake Kurage's damage are based on her max HP. Now that sounds great, okay? That sounds good, right? I always love when characters require shit that isn't crit rate or crit damage or energy recharge. Then there's the rumors that she's gonna have negative 100 crit. And I'm like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do with her? I don't know, man. Like, I genuinely feel that Kokomi, she might legit be the worst character in the game.
Please, someone tell me in the comments, does he know about Teya? Anyway, I also don't count Kaveh as a defensive option because Maybe my build is trash, but let me put it like that. He's not a Shincho, he's a Hutao. Overall, I just think it's Dendro oversaturation. We are in a rerun impact phase, so there's Nahida, I'll hate him. Also, come on, Yoimiya's story quest is fine. It's been 2 years, alright? Let her have it. But with the rest, I agree. I don't like the events this patch at all.
But hey, did you guys know about this new game Honkai Star Rail? A new game developed by Hoyoverse, the same creators of massive hits like Honkai Impact III.
Nothing to add about this fake sponsorship, just that it was funny and on point.
But honestly, that's kind of how things have been going. Genshin has been in a dry state. We even had some of the lowest banner sales, especially for a new limited character, and Hoyoverse for the latter half of this patch have basically just said to invest in Star Rail stocks instead. And the thing is, we've seen this cycle a lot. The patches leading up to Inazuma, likewise the patches leading up to Sumru, and now we're on the tail end of Sumru for Fontaine.
See, the sales are only mobile and I think not even the whole world. Also, 99% of the player base are free to play, so I don't like using them as a metric. They are not indicative of a popularity of a unit. Also, sales have always been going down before a major update because people are saving. Come on, how many skipped Kazuha for Raiden? And speaking about new regions, I agree completely that things just slow down before those come out. Hoyoverse kind of conditioned us to think that it's normal, and I don't personally mind it that much. However, there was this time when for like a year I had online classes. That saved me a lot of time, especially since I could do boring stuff like the dailies while listening to equally boring lectures. It meant I had time to keep up with the content though, and there was a point when I felt a drought. So I won't be lying to you by saying that, oh, I don't touch grass. Genshin has enough content. Especially since I understand some people just don't want to do certain things. Does it pain me to see people use prototype Star Glitter or Fav Lens on Raiden? Yes, it does. But I won't blame you for not wanting to fish in this game because it's probably the worst system they've ever introduced. Yet.
So it makes sense that the community and the game feels a lot slower, but in this case it hurts a lot more, mainly due to Star Rail. Let's look at it like this. Since the literal beginning of the game, when players found out how to optimize stats and what artifacts they wanted to use on their characters, we slowly realized, hey, this system sucks ass. Or you know, the fact that you have to teleport to a new region to change your MC's element, which is extremely inconvenient. Even just commissions being tedious after doing them a few times. We even have the resin system that's currently just slow and inconvenient. And because these issues have been in the game for so long, most people were just like, it's Genshin, it's Hoyoverse, it's just a part of the experience. Then to have basically most of the system upgrades and improvements that we wanted in Genshin to just be implemented day fucking zero in Hoyo's shiny new cash grab, it wasn't even laziness or the company being incompetent, they were just deliberately holding back better features and using those frustrations to fuel hype towards their new game. Which, you know, obviously fucking worked.
There it is a take that I hugely disagree with, because what systems Flip mentioned, quality of life changes, we'll get to them later, but other than that, resin, artifact farming, daily commissions being tedious, well, the reality is, these are equally boring and tedious in Star Rail, and I know, this might be a bit of a controversial opinion. For now, I have been playing Star Rail for like, I don't know, below 3 weeks? Seriously guys, I can already tell, this shit will be painful. It's still a new game, you are in your honeymoon phase, but no, I wouldn't say it's true that all of those things we were complaining about were fixed and put in Star Rail. I would say that the worst systems in Genshin were put in Star Rail because it's a gacha game.
If Genshin already had these systems, hell, if Genshin was currently fun and exciting to play right now, no one would be playing Star Rail because they would just be playing Genshin.
They want you to play as many games of theirs as you can. That is true. You'd have to be a complete moron to disagree with that. And I'm going to be honest, I felt exactly like Flip. before I played Star Rail. Seriously, I wanted to hate that game. I was like that. I was me from middle school again, when I wanted to be edgy and not like everybody else. I'm not saying Flip is like that, just to be clear. It's an interesting perspective for me to hear, because I had the same one. Playing Star Rail is actually not the only thing that changed it. It was also me actually engaging with the Genshin community. I know, scary. But yeah, I went out to Facebook because I don't have Twitter. and also Reddit. And of course, I may be wrong, but I feel like the majority of players, well, chances are they will like this update. Because man, people love TCG. Maybe I will explain a little how I feel about the update, as you may call me a hardcore casual. It's pretty shit, not gonna lie. Because I kind of don't like TCG. And yes, this is going to be that TCG tangent. I didn't mind it at first, but they've been shoving it down our throats for months. Every event, Sino or someone else had to mention it. Oh, a TCG card back here. A TCG special edition card as a prize. Oh, what's next? A TCG toilet bowl? But oh boy, is it a hot take in the general community? I learned it the hard way. They will eat you alive for saying you don't like it. And they will tell you, oh, you probably don't like it because you don't read the rules and you suck. Newsflash, the rules aren't that complicated. I played the new PvP mode, which, by the way, is the only decent mode, in my opinion, because it actually scales with you. So if you've just won 3 matches, they will put you with someone who've just won 3 times as well. At least I think that's how it works. Also, it doesn't give any rewards, so it filters out total noobs. This makes it so I actually do have to use more than 1 brain cell, which is the case in normal PvP mode, usually. And when I play against the game, I don't have to use my brain at all. But even this mode isn't that challenging, and I don't know how Nahida works even. I just got her. You just have to actually use that 1 brain cell, and it's not that hard. So no, saying something like, oh, you'd like it if you'd read the rules, is the dumbest take I've heard in a long time. You'd like playing soccer if you knew the rules. No, the rules aren't that complicated. And also I wouldn't, because it's one of the most boring sports. If I wanted to see 22 dudes chasing something, I would go on Tinder. Anyway, these are the same people that complain about the Abyss being too hard. I am actually surprised they didn't appropriate skill issue, because they would definitely piss off some TCG haters, but that just kind of proves my point that they are not the smartest. And no, I am not saying that you are dumb for liking TCG. You are dumb if you are a hypocrite. If you have a right to say, I don't like Spiral Abyss and I hate that I am pressured to do it for Primus. Other people have a right to say, I don't like TCG and I hate that I am pressured to do it for Primus. And before you say it's different, no, it's not, honey. Every argument you have, I have a counter for. I don't feel like my grinding is wasted, actually, but I do feel I wasted my time playing TCG in this current event. Ultimately, I didn't have to do that though. I am completely aware I can skip any event, just like you can skip the Abyss. The world won't collapse. So, I went on a tangent here, but my point is, casuals love TCG. If you are a hardcore player, you probably talk mostly to other hardcore players and you consume content centered around it. That's normal. And I'm the same, like, I was shocked. I thought that, obviously it has some fans, just like there are Teapot mains, but I didn't know how huge this actually is for them. I mean, I can't be sure. None of us can. It's Hoyoverse that does them polls and has them results. Another reason why I disagree with Flip that Star Rail is kind of all Genshin players want it, well, they are entirely different games. Genshin is not that much of a skill-based game, but it does matter. Star Rail is even less skill-based. And yes, the game does involve certain amount of strategy, but that's kind of like creating a team comp in Genshin. For example, there's certain amount of strategy involved in not using Eula with Tighnari or something. Actually, never mind, not using Eula is the better strategy in general. Take this. About 90% of Star Rail can be autoplayed. And at first I was like, wow, who the hell would use autoplay? Turns out, me? I use autoplay daily because farming in this game is boring. Seriously, grinding artifacts can be tedious. That's why I don't farm one domain at a time. The enemies, both bosses or in the domains and in the ley lines, feel different. In Star Rail, the enemies look different, kind of. They still feel the same, except for some story bosses and weekly bosses. Every fight breaks down to 1. Enemy has a shield. A corresponding element helps you break down that shield, or you can brute force it. 2. When you break the shield, the enemy has downtime, and they take increased damage to the end of the cycle. After that, the enemy regains the shield. 3. Your characters and the enemies take turns because it's a turn-based game. I know, you didn't see that one coming. All of the attack animations kind of look the same, and they either hit a single character or they hit multiple of your characters. It's either a single instance of damage or damage over time or debuff. And the bosses sometimes will summon minions. That's it. The enjoyment of the fight definitely comes from what your characters are doing. Because your characters do have significantly distinct animations, voice lines, elements, roles, and overall combat variety. And the characters having much more work put into them is not surprising at all. After all, it's how Hoyoverse makes money. So yeah, the characters are nice, but everything just seems repetitive anyway, even if you switch your party around. I think speed is a huge factor here, so in case you don't play Star Rail, speed is a mechanic that kind of determines the order of your characters taking actions. It kind of sucks. I mean, I guess it's a turn-based game thing, but imagine if you were forced to do set rotations. Have you ever played Sinnoh with Nahida? They have this problem where if you kill your first wave of enemies just right after activating Sinnoh's Q, now they are not affected by Nahida's E. You have to refresh it, but if you switch to Nahida, then Sinnoh's ult runs out, and suddenly you regret you are not playing Kuching instead. Imagine if you were just forced to switch to Zhongli and use his shield or his ult. His ult is very long, so it's not optimal. That's Honkai Star Rail. Before you say that, since Star Rail's combat is a one-button combat, literally you can do everything with a left click, and they don't put timers on fights, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you right away, it does, because they do put a timer, except it's hidden. See, in the late endgame dungeon, the time limit became a cycle limit. What is a cycle, you may ask? Imagine Star Rail like playing a board game that has teams. For example, you and 3 of your friends play in a team against the other 4 of your friends. It's not realistic because nobody has that many friends, but I hope you get the picture. So, each of you roll a dice and make a move. Once everybody makes a move on a board, a cycle ends. Certain characters or relics, these are artifacts for Genshin only enjoyers, have effects that give you extra turns in a cycle, like this character Zila. So it's not that simple, but basically that's how it works, more or less. The goal of this board game is to get all 4 players of your team to the last tile on the board, before the other team does that. The less cycles, the better, so you want to roll higher numbers, aka do more damage. The endgame dungeon in SHR has a set amount of cycles after which you just fail. Just like in the Abyss, you fail after 10 minutes. So, how they added a timer for getting 3 stars on a chamber without adding one? They made it so you have to finish within a set amount of cycles remaining. This makes characters that can do follow-up attacks or take extra turns pretty powerful, but ultimately it's a damage check. There is strategy involved. For example, this Fury here is a very good support for this other character, kind of like Bennett to Shenling. The point is, most of your strategizing happens before the fight. The rest is pretty basic. If you're on your healer, you look at your HP, and if it's low, you heal. If it's not low, you attack. If you're on your buffer and your DPS isn't buffed yet, you buff them. Overall, for the casual player, the combat is still complicated enough that theory crafting won't die, but I don't expect the Genshin level of depth. But Hoyoverse knows their audience. Their audience is casuals. That's why the next game they made, they simplified it. And for a turn-based game, I actually don't think the combat system is bad at all. I don't want you to get this impression. It's just, if combat is the thing you like the most in Genshin, probably won't be a game for you. Unless you enjoy other aspects of it. The story is pretty good. But you know what Star Rail's combat system reminds me of? One of the game modes in Genshin. Can you guess which one? Fishing. Obviously I mean TCG. And that's the thing. This is important because now you can see, like, if you like TCG, you will love Star Rail. Probably. Hoyo wants casuals who like TCG that don't bother with the Abyss to come to Star Rail because they liked this Genshin update. They want you to play both, obviously, and that's also why ultimately they are different games, so they can hook you even if you don't really like TCG. If you have everything you need in one game, you won't play the other. I probably wouldn't like Genshin so much if Skyrim's combat wasn't dog shit. That just reinforces my belief that Hoyo probably won't add any endgame, just like they said. But that Zenless Zone Zero won't be entirely what we want either. From what I've seen, it seems it will be the closest, but I'm pretty confident it will be different enough so you'll still want to play Genshin and you will still crave more of these combat events or a new game mode.
And it's wild because I've seen people saying I'm quitting Genshin, Star Rail is so much better. It's the same company. All roads lead to Hoyoverse.
Yeah. This is so stupid. And also I won't change my mind on Welkin being the only thing worth your money in Genshin. And it's the same in Star Rail. Maybe I should also add that I think Star Rail is far more susceptible to power creep. And you can say you're not afraid of that because Genshin doesn't really have power creep. Well, in my opinion, Genshin has become more pay to win by the reverse power creep, by making the Abyss tailored for new characters while also making said new characters weaker. That's why I wouldn't put it past Hoyoverse. Oh, and by the way, I plan to make a video on the new Abyss indeed, but since it updated after Flip's video, I leave it for now.
The idea of this hub you can create for yourself and your character sounds so cool until you realize you have to go and farm the materials, find blueprints for the thing you want to build, and then wait a day for what you want. So they just made this thing that was supposed to be exciting and fun and turned it into tedious labor.
I like the Teapot, but Flip explained the issues with it pretty well. I would also add the fact that load is a huge problem because when I released it I wanted to go hard on it just to realize that I couldn't. And I don't mean to shit on mobile players, they're the vast majority, and the days when I only spend the resin and do the commissions, it's usually on mobile. But it seems like a failed experiment, like they both wanted to have a cookie and eat it. Since the game is cross-platform, they can't make the system great, but they add it anyway and it's not that good. I feel like people love TCG because it actually works great on mobile. Think about it. Fishing sucks in general, but it sucks on mobile in particular because it's clunky. So I guess TCG is indeed the first new game mode they added that actually is perfect on mobile. Wow. Let me guess what new game mode we're getting next. I don't think it's going to be something combat related.
With the release of Star Rail, it generally just cemented that I doubt this game will make any more impactful long-term content even if it's not combat related, or make serious quality of life improvements because the game just runs on inconvenience to keep you playing, and to gravitate you to the new projects like the upcoming ZZZ that will launch sometime in the future. Anyways, because I am only me, who's actually still yet to play Honkai Star Rail, I decided to ask around in my Discord for those who played Star Rail their thoughts and perspectives on both Star Rail and Genshin, so I could get a much better perspective. The questions I asked were...
So this is going to be an interesting segment. Since we will be starting with quality of life changes, I will already present you 3 categories to describe how I feel about a particular quality of life change. 1. Yes, it is a quality of life change. 2. Yes, it is a quality of life change, but I kind of don't care. 3. Not necessarily quality of life change in my opinion.
For question 1F says, being able to redo expeditions in one click after claiming rewards,
That's a 2.
daily mission systems that isn't tedious like commissions.
That's a 3. They are maybe slightly less tedious, but also I haven't played this game for almost 3 years, so it's hard to tell. I don't mind commissions in Genshin for a first month or 2 when a new region drops. I will say though that, for now, they are slightly more tolerable.
Doing more waves while farming resources to use resin faster.
So this was hard, I wasn't sure, but I gotta say yes. It's more convenient to just queue a few waves, press autoplay, take a shit, come back and claim the drop. This would be pretty good in Genshin, like you have 4 condensed, you do the domain once and you get 8 trash artifacts right away. For ley lines I wouldn't do that because they give monster drops, and if it's a new region and you farm XP books but also don't have a shit ton of the common materials, it's pretty good. And I actually don't mind running 5 seconds to a ley line, it takes me about the same time as a loading screen. Nonetheless, this could be an option if you don't care about the materials.
Changing MC's element with having to go to a specific place.
That's a 2. Let's not pretend like we are using different elements for DMC than Dendro. Come on guys. You're not fooling me. Still, new players would probably appreciate that because they don't have that many characters to solve puzzles.
Higher resin cap and quicker refresh speed.
That's a 3. Not an upgrade.
Wait a second.
And let me explain. The Star Rail's equivalent of resin, that Trailblaze power, does regenerate faster and it has a higher cap, but it still maxes out faster, so if you don't want to be capped, you gotta log in every 18 hours. And in Genshin it's more than 21 hours. I would like this to be higher, but at least it's not 16 hours, which was the case at Genshin's launch. But if you close your eyes, does it? Oh, okay, I am going to be DMC8. Anyway, I see Hoyoverse making it closer to Genshin at launch rather than to current Genshin, as them just trying to make you play their game more often. Now you will feel worse for only logging in once a day, about every 24 hours. And yes, expeditions are never 24 hours for a reason. Oh, you're busy? But you have some time on the train or during a school or work break. Don't you have a phone?
Do you guys not have phones? Yeah,
That's first of all, and also the drops in Star Rail are just lower. People underestimate how much we get from chests. Aside from Primo Gems, they give weapon upgrade materials, experience mats, Mora, elemental sigils that can be converted for more rewards, and when you exchange for everything more Mora, artifact EXP. Even though most chests are common, it adds up. And in Star Rail you basically need to farm everything with your Trailblaze power, except for some common mats, but gosh, is killing enemies in the open world tedious. More so than in Genshin even. As for the relics now, do you remember? You probably don't, but do you remember when we didn't know how artifacts even worked? So we weren't sure that EM circlets, for example, are just less common than defense circlets? Well, it's still not officially stated in the game, but we have enough data now to basically confirm it as highly probable, almost certain. And the thing is that in Star Rail we just don't have that data. That's the first thing. Also, we just don't know a lot of other things. For example, yes, you can get an item to change the main stat of a relic, but how many of those items you get? I know you get one from the battle pass, so it's kind of like a crown, once per patch, but maybe you will actually get more of them later. They will add something in 1.1, I don't know. Yes, you only need 4 pieces instead of 5, that seems better, but will it actually be easier to complete a good set than when you have an option to have a cracked off piece? I don't know. Nobody knows.
I don't know.
No one knows.
That's the thing. To figure out what is more resin slash trailblaze power efficient, we'd have to do calculations, and we just can't possibly do legit calculations right now. It's just too early to tell, but what I can tell you for sure is that it's Hoyoverse. So I wouldn't be too optimistic, man.
Only having to lose one 50-50 on weapon banner for a guarantee.
This is a one, yes. An improvement for sure, but like Geralt once said, jeśli mam wybierać między złem a złem, wolę nie wybierać wcale. But you probably know it as...
If I'm to choose between one evil and another, I'd rather not choose at all.
Let's be honest, it's still garbage, and I think we should keep complaining because it's already bad that predatory systems became a new norm in games.
Being able to spark and being able to spark whichever standard character you want after 300 pulls.
Same thing as before, definitely a quality of life change. I am just wondering how much time it would take me to get 300 pulls on standard as a free-to-play, especially that you dump your first 50 pulls into a novice banner. Departure warp, which is ironic because you start the game and they give you a departure warp. Yeah. Depart with your hopes of getting the specific character you want. Still, it is a positive change, obviously. To sum it up, yes, I do think SHR has some quality of life changes. Some things are better than in Genshin, but in most cases, they are either not life-changing in my opinion, or they are not that simple, and they aren't actually quality of life changers at all. They are just disguised as ones. People are free to have different opinions though on what is important and what is not. I just don't want people to be overly positive for Star Rail and dunk hundreds of dollars into it just to be disillusioned after. I am definitely not talking from a personal experience in Genshin. By the way, I could also find things that are just worse in Star Rail, like where the fuck is the jump button? I didn't think it would bother me, to be honest, but holy shit, is it annoying when I can't jump over something that should easily be jumped over. Invisible walls will exist in any game almost, but I feel like not giving you the option to jump in the open areas is just lazy. It's immersion breaking. Still, since most of the game is left to click only, I don't think it ruins it totally. Just like 3 more seconds once a day when dispatching expeditions doesn't break it in Genshin.
The response to question 2, which was about aesthetics, is that they're pretty much the same as Genshin's. Combat animations are better, but only because the combat is turn-based, so long animations don't waste time like in Genshin.
In general, if we're talking aesthetics, it's 100% subjective. However, I will say that 4 stars having an animation is 100% an upgrade, and overall, indeed, animations are longer because of the exact reasons stated here.
For what they wanted in Genshin that was already in Star Rail, it was a roguelike game mode like simulated universe that gives weekly rewards.
The thing is, Spiral Abyss is repetitive, but it wasn't always the case. Simulated Universe is already becoming that for me, because contrary to the Abyss, you have to do it multiple times, and it kind of made me realize that I wouldn't want the Abyss to reset every week. Like, I used to regret that it wasn't resetting every week for 300 Primogems instead of 2 weeks for 600, but now I think I wouldn't want that. If you want to, you can replay the Abyss, which I will probably do to have a background footage for this video, but when I don't have time, I don't have to. Still, it is a pretty good game mode. I just don't think it's really better than the Abyss, but that's probably because of the combat itself. Like I mentioned, I prefer Genshin's. And hey, if you like Simulated Universe very much, it's fine, dude. I'm glad for you.
They also think that Hoyo still cares about the quality of Genshin, as in their opinion, Genshin is meant to be a story-driven game and most of their investment goes towards making an immersive open-world experience, rather than giving it a repetitive endgame like other gachas. F also thinks that whether you play HSR or Genshin depends on your preference. If you like open-world games with real-time combat and a story that takes itself seriously, then Genshin. If he prefers turn-based combat and a more surreal story, then HSR.
I agree with both.
And for if they think Genshin will lose popularity because of Star Rail, they said no. give people a few weeks to reach endgame and they exhaust their free currency sources, and it will end up like all the other Genshin killers. As the professional hater I am, I honestly can't wait for this to happen. I think it's already happened for Entashed, which, yeah.
Yeah, and I am not even in that true endgame, but I can already see that. And yes, oh my god, I saw that untouched video. Ah, I love him. He's like a silly friend you have that never takes your advice and later cries on your shoulder, and it's annoying, but you still love him to pieces. I genuinely love the Untouched universe, and I can't wait for this TV series to develop.
And one of the responses just talked about how the NPCs in Honkai Star Rail look a lot better than the Genshin ones.
I didn't notice that, but maybe that's a skill issue in getting money for that new PC. Alright, that's everything that I wanted to say in regards to the content of the video. The thing is, it's not like I think Flip is necessarily wrong. He might as well be right. I just have a different perspective both on Star Rail and on Genshin. So for him, Genshin is an ego that you simp for, right? I'd say for me it's more like I'm in an open relationship with it, and it is long term, it is some sort of commitment, but we're not planning to get married and have kids. Ugh. And Genshin is kind of committed to Star Rail too. And we sometimes have a threesome, but I also date other people, aka I play different games. And I'm completely fine with that. Overall, I think Genshin is a great game. Not my favorite game of all time, but still pretty good. The main problem I have with it, or rather problems, are all caused by it being a gacha game. It is just impossible to ignore, because it doesn't only affect your wallet. It affects gameplay because money equals more characters and stronger characters in general. It affects the story because they sometimes kind of force certain characters into it just because they are new and they have a banner. It affects or kind of even determines the general gameplay loop. What I mean by that, resin and dailies are a must. It affects the target audience, and the biggest group is casuals. A game like Elden Ring will make less money than one banner in Genshin. That's just how it is. You can also see that with their character design, because they put more emphasis on their personality, their story, their voiceover and their looks rather than the gameplay. They know that even someone like Dayo will make them money. And it also affects the fact that half the content is time limited, which I hate. I hate deadlines, I hate rushing stuff. I just can't stand it, because the game starts to feel like work then. Still, I have my ways to avoid feeling burned out that I've developed after my last massive burnout in 2.7, I think it was. Personally, I don't feel depressed by the game, thankfully, and I am just feeling sorry for Flip and everyone who does, honestly. I hate that this is the case, that Genshin does that to people. I hope it will get better for you soon. Thank you for watching and take care you all. Bye!